This witch hunter is 800 years old named Calder. He's looking at Dolan's body. This is the 36th time that Calder participates in Dolan's funeral. But this time he doesn't feel right, so he lights a candle. Then try to put it in front of the nose of Dolan 36th. As expected, he is cursed with an evil spell. In his neck, Calder takes out a fly. This is a kind of dark magic of the 19th century. He seems not to die yet, but he's not going to live much longer either. There is a cut on his finger. It seems that this is a clue that the Dolan 36th left. So Calder hurries to go to his whereabouts. There is nothing out of the ordinary here. There also seems to be no sign of a witch. But when Calder takes out some lime, then a spell on the floor appears. Looks like the spell has been lifted. The whole room begins to change. It turns out that the room hides some sort of spell. The room looks like a real mess. Yesterday, Dolan 36th must have experienced a great fight. He was even tied up on the sofa. Calder opens Dolan's notebook. There is a blood fingerprint marking on a word, reminding Calder of the memory of 800 years ago. So what did happen 800 years ago? He really can't remember anything. The expensive pen on the table is gone. Calder decides to investigate from that pen. The clue only leads to a very famous online bakery. There are a lot of people inside, but the truth is those cakes taste really bad. The reason for it's well known is because the owner puts worms inside the cake. The owner of this bakery is a worm-driven witchcraft who has lived for over 100 years. His forte is brainwashing people. The owner tells Calder that the person he is looking for, living in a funeral home under a begonias. When he goes to the funeral home, there is a monstrous toy inside. Calder carefully walks forward. Then a witch suddenly bursts out, stabbing the magic wand through Calder's hand. Calder kicks him away with all his strength. When he pulls out the magic wand, his hand heals as before. It turns out that Calder has a curse of immortality. He brings that witchcraft to the chapel for trial. The head witch, Glazer, uses the tarot card to judge, and permanently locks him up in the prison cell. When Glazer inserts the key, a monster appears. It reaches out to catch that witchcraft. He will never see sunlight again. But Dolan 36th has yet to regain consciousness. Looks like the real criminal has yet to be found. After Dolan go to the library to find the files, Calder decides to go find the Dream Witch, in order to recall his memories of 800 years ago. In the 21st century, the Dream Witch has a bar business. They use magic to decorate the bar to look very magical. They also sell spirit and memory potions. This must be Calder's first time coming to the bar. He is a bit embarrassed and doesn't know what to order. Calder asks,
"What's your charge?"
Well, that depends on what you like.
A memory.
After hearing, Chloe thinks he is an idiot, so she quickly sets the price.
$500.
Deal.
Looks like the price is a bit low, so Chloe quickly changes the price.
I actually meant 5,000.
Sold.
50,000.
Shall we start?
The witches in the stories actually live all around us. They can open flower shops, bakery, or a bar to hide the identity. They don't get involved with human life. But there is another group that is different from the rest of the witches. They practice magic, because they want to rebuild the world that witches own. This is the reason why the witch hunters like Calder appear. After finishing with the memory recall potion, Chloe injects it into a cherry, and hands it to Calder. He swallows it right after. After a while, he returns to the world of 800 years ago. He was standing in the snowy storm. Their team were on their way to kill the Witch Queen. He was still immortal at that time. Just an ordinary person wearing a full body armor. But he killed the Witch Queen. The Queen cursed him to be immortal before she died. So he could never die nor rest. This is the reason why Calder never died. But there is a fact that he did not know after this witch hunt journey. His life is entirely based on the still beating heart of the Queen. Dolan I wanted to save Calder, so he hid this heart. At the same time, he also stopped the opportunity for the Queen to come back to life. Upon learning this truth, Calder was overwhelmed with grief. He did not expect that while he returned to his past, another witchcraft has infiltrated his memory. He wakes Calder up and ties him on the floor. Calder is forced to leave his memory, which makes him suffering on the floor. He pulls out a needle, then tries to pull his hand out of the handcuffs. The other hand grips the column tightly, try to pull out with his best force. Finally he releases himself from the handcuffs. He stands up and attacks that witch again. During the fight, he finds out that this is the witchcraft, who casted a spell on Dolan 36th. So he fights with all of his strength. But because he is too angry, he has left a loophole. So he is spelled by that witchcraft and loses consciousness. The witchcraft takes a chance to burn everything down, then casts the spell to prepare to escape. But in the last moment, Calder wakes up. He grabs his long beard, trying to grab some of them. Having a beard makes it easier to find him. Those fires burn down Chloe's bar. She is angry, but she also doesn't want him to leave. So she has to take him home. In the battle between humans and witches, many innocent witches are also involved. Many of Chloe's friends also died unjustly. Dark witches have killed their people because they want to achieve the world they consider being the ideal. This caused Chloe to think that she will turn her back on humans. Chloe decides to ally with Calder, but before that, she has to go to a place to buy ingredients to make potions. Many ancient witches are living there. They are the fashion owners. They love to train beautiful models. Behind the scenes, the models are wearing makeup. But under that thick chalk is an old body. These supermodels are all witches. And the person sitting on this sofa, she is the queen of fashion, Danique. When Calder gets there, he wants to exchange something, being used against the power of other witches, but he is hypnotized by Danique. When he wakes up, he sees his wife 800 years ago. Calder suddenly gets lost in that memory. At that time there are two big guys throwing him out, but they unexpectedly are dragged to the ground by Calder. Calder has awoken in time. Chloe awakens him, he is furious. So he instantly snatches Danique's necklace. Then take out the crystal inside. Danique pleads but Chloe smashes it with her foot. Danique knees on the ground. She touches the fragments of the crystal with her hand and rubs it on her face. But she still cannot keep the old face. Calder finds a clue about the Witch Queen's revival. Then he quickly goes back home. Seeing the body of Dolan 36th, he immediately lights a piece of incense. These incense can hold his soul. But there is not much time left. Calder holds a weapon. Getting out the door to fight the last match. He hates his eternal life. So he decides to die this time with the queen. The clues lead to the old tree stump. He slashes the witchcraft who casted a spell on Dolan 36th. But unexpectedly, the queen got back her heart. She drains Calder's resurrection power. Then jumps into the ground. Calder returns home with a wounded body. Calder sees Dolan 36th opens his eyes. Then he knows the spell has been gone. Calder thinks whether this is the last match or not. He will die without regrets. The queen returns. The whole chapel is full of old trees carrying disease. Calder and Chloe go inside. Then go down through a path. In there is a blue barrier. Connected with 800 years ago. He gets strength from the evil people he captures. With the help of Chloe, Calder goes through the barrier. That is the future that the queen sets up. The whole city is covered with dense trees. The witches are singing on the street. To summon a magic power to destroy the world. As soon as they sing, thousands of worms fly out from the chapel. Wipe away the world. Dolan 36's eyes are filled with anxiety. He knows that Calder could hardly avoid this evil battle. Indeed, at the chapel, Calder is knocked to the ground. After completely losing his eternal strength. Then he is just an ordinary person. He uses all his might in the end. Drop a weatherstone in. Then a hurricane emerges. During a hurricane, he throws out a sword. That stab right in the queen's heart. He knows that when the queen die, he will also die. But anyway, he has lived for too long. After the queen dies, then thousands of insects and diseases also fall off. Dolan 36 stands in front of the window to observe. Then he knows that this time people win again. The epidemic is once again under control. At the end of the movie, Calder and Dolan 36 sit in front of the chapel. He finally keeps the queen's heart to continue living. Because at the last moment when he entered the dark world of death, he saw so many terrifying things were waiting Silent L. They are waiting for a world without Calder.